Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be cutting and sewing this palazzo trouser, and I have here about 2 yards of fabric here, 2.5 yards actually. So palazzo trouser is not the only thing I'm sewing from it. I'm actually sewing a palazzo trouser and a crop top from it. So to fold our fabric, I already folded the fabric using the hip measurement. And while doing that, you want to fold the hip measurements, and because it's a palazzo you need a lot of ease, so determine what your ease is going to be. Then you add extra 2.5 inches to 3 inches depending on the size of your client. If the person is like size 12 upwards, use 3 inches extra, but for size 10 downwards you're okay with 2.5. So I use the hip measurement divided by 4, then 2 inches for his and 2.5 inches because this is like a size 8 or measurement or dress. So now the first thing I'm going to measure is the hem of the palazzo trouser. It's a floor length trouser, so I'm just going to mark out the hem first, after which I'm going to mark the length of the palazzo. And for the length of the palazzo that I'm making, the length is 41 inches. So I'm going to take my tape rule from the hem of the trouser to get my 41 inches, but I'm not going to be marking 41 inches because it has a band, and I'm going to be using 1.5 inches for the band of this trouser, which means I'm going to be marking 41 minus 1.5. so my tape rule is on 39.5 inches. So 39.5 inches is what I'm going to be marking as the length, and I'm going to be adding additional ½ inch that I'm going to use to join to the band. So by the time I add the 1.5 inches band, my trouser is going to be 41 inches. I hope I'm making sense. So now I'm marking the 39.5 inches, and then I went ahead to mark the ½ inch for joining to the band. So now the next thing we're going to do after that is to take the hip line and the crotch line. So from that point where the starting line is, you're going to put your tape rule 2 inches outside. You're going to assume your band is there so that you'll be able to get your hip line, and from that to 1.5 inches for band actually. So the band is 1.5 inches, not 2. So you're going to mark your hip line, and after the hip line you're going to go down to your crotch line. So for the crotch, because it's a palazzo, it's a free trouser, you don't want it to be too tight around the crotch area, you can just go in and use your hip measurement divided by 3. It's going to be very beautiful, it's going to be nice and free. So I use the client's hip measurement divided by 3 for the crotch length. So for this trouser you don't need the knee length because we don't have any fitting to do around the knee, so it's just going to be straight down, just free that way. So those are the lines we need, those are the horizontal lines we need. So now we're going to go to the body measurement. Firstly, you're going to take your hip measurement divided by 4 plus the ease. The ease is what you want to add to it to make it very free around the hip area because it's not a fitted trouser. So you're going to mark that on the hip line. The same measurements you have on the hip line, you're also going to mark it on the waist line and also on the crotch line. So I'm going to go again. You're going to take your hip measurement divided by 4 plus the ease you want. You can do 1 inch, you can do 1.5, and you can do 2 inches. I think 2 inches maximum. Then whatever you have there, mark it also on the waist line. Then you also mark it on the crotch line. Then you make it into a straight line. I'm sorry about the chalk. I didn't notice that the chalk didn't show very well on the fabric, but if you're following the video you're going to understand what I'm doing. I'm really sorry about that, about the markings not showing. So on the crotch line you're going to extend that line by 2.5 inches, and from the hip line to the crotch line, you're just going to create a curve to have your crotch curve, and that is that about the crotch area. Then you move to the waist. You mark your waist measurements, divide by 4 plus ½ inch. The ½ inch is going to be the joining around the crotch. So when you mark that, if you look at the style, it has this pleat, not really a pleat, like a dart placement that is not even the usual dart. So you're going to determine what you want to use as your dart. In this case, I'm going to be using 1.5 inches as the dart intake. So you're going to add that 1.5 inches to it. Then you add your 1 inch sewing allowance, and that is just everything you need to mark. So you're just going to go ahead and cut out our front piece. You know, this is the front piece we are cutting first, and we're going to be using the front piece to cut out the back piece. So I'm going ahead to split it open so we can have 2 pieces. So now I'm going to take the rest of the material and I'm going to fold over again and place the front piece on it. So the back piece is going to be 2 inches wider than the front piece. This to, you know, accommodate the rest of the body. You know, we didn't add allowance to the front piece, so this 2 inches is going to be your allowance around the trouser, around your trouser. So you're going to add 2 inches all around the back piece. This 2 inches is going to serve as the joining allowance for both sides, which means if you join with ½ inch on both sides, each side already will be taking 1 inch and the other side will take another 1 inch, which is the 2 inches sewing allowance. I hope that makes sense enough. So now for the upper part, I'm trying to reset the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. For the upper part, for the back crotch, you're going to extend it by 1.5 inches. That means the back crotch is going to be 1 inch longer than the front crotch. So you're going to extend that by 1.5 inch. Then you measure the waist measurements you have on your front piece. Whatever you get there, you're going to place your tape rule on the 1.5 inches extension you did for the back crotch, and you know, slant it to meet the waist area for the front piece, and you mark your measurements there, and from there you connect to the hip. And that is everything, guys. That is everything you need for this palazzo trouser. And you're also going to go ahead and cut it out. Then for the front piece, I'm still going to go ahead and cut out 1 inch from the waist area. You know, this is just for the waist area to sit properly on the body. So you're just going to go ahead and cut out our pattern. But I think I later cut it out. I didn't cut it out at this point. I decided to cut it out after I'm done. I marked it. You can see me marking it now. So I marked the 1 inch from the crotch, just to slant it to back to the sides of the trouser. So now we are going to go ahead and cut out the back pattern. And yes, you're going to add all the 2 inches down to the hem of the trouser all around. That, like I said, is for the sewing allowance. So when you're done doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the back piece. And now that I'm done cutting the back piece, I'm just going to split it open too, so we can have 2 pieces for the back. Next we're going to move to the sewing. So we have our 2 front pieces. You're going to go ahead and join by ½ inch. But before we do that, remember the 1 inch I went down with on the waist area. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. Like I said, this is just for the trouser to sit properly on the waist. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew with the ½ inch sewing allowance, and I'm also going to do the same thing for the back piece. I'm going to sew on ½ inch allowance, and yes, after sewing, this is what it looks like. You're going to open up, and then the next thing we want to do is to input our dart. And remember, if you look at the style very well, it is not the usual dart, it is not the normal dart. So to get the dart placement from the middle point of this trouser, mark your nipple to nipple measurement, and from there mark your dart. Remember, we used 1.5 inches from the dart. So you're just going to flip it over and, you know, give it a notch so you can know where to sew when you get to the machine. So what you're going to do is you're just going to sew it down about 3 inches. You can even do 2 inches, And from there, remember, this dart is not the normal dart. You're not going to slant it. You're just going to sew straight and you top stitch. You do the same thing for the other side, and you also do the same thing for the back pieces. And after doing that, this is what it looks like. You can see how it looks like. You can see the pleats on it. So I did just 3 inches for the dart placement. So the next thing we want to do now is to cut band for these 2 pieces. Remember, we are going to be adding 1.5 inches band, and for the band you're just going to measure what you have on the waist with the sewing allowance, and you're going to cut out your 1.5 inches band and attach it to it. I cut it on fold and I attached it to the trouser. So now the last part of this trouser is to join using the front. You place the front piece on the back piece, place them together. If you want to pin, you can go ahead and pin. Take your measuring tape and measure the waist measurement, then you mark it and you sew down all the way to the hem. You sew the sides, then you're going to decide where you want your zipper to be. So after sewing the side, you sew from the one crotch area to the leg, to the pant leg, another crotch to the pant leg. Then you decide where you want to put your zipper, and you're going to go ahead and fix your zipper on the part you've decided, and our palazzo is ready, guys. So I'm going to show you how it looks like after joining. Guys, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button. So guys, this is the finished look of our palazzo trouser. This is how it looks like after joining. And I wanted to add, you can just add hair stay to your band, to make it a little bit harder than it is, because of the fabric. So guys, at this point, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please click on the subscribe button, and do not forget to like this video, and you can also share. And I'll see you again in another video. Bye.